What's going on, guys? It's Kevin. I wanted to give you guys some video tutorials on Adobe Premiere Pro as well as some of the other programs. Mostly the basics for now, starting a project, file structure, exporting a project, and then hopefully some more advanced tutorials down the line. Guys, so let's get started. The first thing I want to go over is you just finished filming, you got all your footage on your SD card, you pop it in your computer, and we're going to go over file structure. So you're going to open your folder. Right click your SD card. For me, for some reason, it comes up as USB drive. We're going to hit open in new window. That's our USB. And I'm going to also have the folder where I'm putting the files, which is my hard drive. The first thing we're going to do is make a new folder, and we're naming that tutorial. Within that folder, we're going to make our 4 subfolders, which are the video subfolder, audio, graphics, and a project folder. Now we're going to back up our video into our video folder, and once that finishes backing up, we can close that out and launch Premiere. So let's create a new project. We're going to name this tutorial, and it saves it automatically to our desktop, and we don't want to save that there. And even if you're working from home, you generally don't want to save it where it defaults to. You should have an external or an internal hard drive separate from your operating system. But I have an external one, so that's what we're going to do. Tutorial, and it's going to go in the project folder. Select folder, and we're going to name that tutorial. That's good. And the rest of these settings are fine. So we're just going to hit OK. Now that we're in our project, we're going to start to import our footage. The very first thing I want you to do is go to File, Import. We're going to go to that media that we have, and I want you to individually click the folders. So first we'll do audio, and you're going to hit Import Folder, not Open, Import Folder. What that does is it creates a bin inside of Premiere, and it organizes your footage in Premiere as well. So after you've imported your first folder, it usually highlights it. Deselect it, click right next to it, and then do the same thing again. File, Import, we go to hard drive, tutorial, graphics, and sadly you can't select more than one folder at a time to import. So we're going to do import folder. It makes another bin. That's great. Import. We're going to go back to hard drive, tutorial, video. Now we're going to import our video. Same thing, import folder, and we have our third folder. I deselected the folder every time because otherwise it'll put that new folder inside that bin. And we don't want that to happen. So now I got my audio, my graphics, my video, and I have my assets inside them. So next, let's create a sequence. And I'm going to do it the same way. File, new, sequence, and we're going to make a new sequence. I'm going to pick DSLR 1080 24 frames because that's what I'm shooting in, and that's probably the best one for my camera. You might need a different one. If you don't want to choose DSLR, the next best I would say is HD video, and you can again select HD 1080p 30 frames. If you're doing something for TV and you're shooting in 30 frames, make sure you pick 30p. If you're doing something more film-like and you want that film vibe and you're doing 24 frames, make sure you put 1080 24 frames. And that does matter. So like I said, I'm going to do DSLR 24 frames. My first sequence, I'm just going to name it basically what this is, and it's YouTube tutorial 1. We'll hit OK. And now I don't need a folder for that. That's my sequence. That's my first sequence. If I had a bunch of sequences, I would make a separate bin for that. But I like to, if I'm only doing one sequence, I'll drag it to the very first slot, and now I can start placing my footage onto the timeline. And if I hit back in the folder here, I go back to where my 3 bins are and my sequence is. And my sequence now has that video that I just placed. The way you could tell if it's a sequence and not a video is in the bottom right corner, it has a little icon, and that's the sequence icon. Under video, it has, it's weird, it says it contains audio icon. Linked audio used one time. But yeah, so that's how you tell the difference between the two. So now we're going to go over export settings. We're going to go into File, Export, Media, and you have this little window that pops up. If it doesn't already do it for you, for the format, you want to make sure you're on H.264. That's the most widely accepted codec. Preset, we're not going to change because we're going to change that and we're going to customize it ourselves. So next thing I want you to do is output name. It says YouTube tutorial 1.mp4. That's correct, but it's not going to the right spot. It's going to the project folder. So, and it might not be going to the project folder for you. It might be going somewhere else, which isn't right. So we're going to go to tutorial, and we're going to make a new folder, and that's the export folder. The only reason I saved that for last is to show you guys where it's going to be going. So we're going to go into the export. We're going to hit open, open, and I'm going to leave the name the same because that's the correct name, and we'll hit save. And then really the only other thing you guys are going to be changing is in this little window here under video, you're going to scroll down to render at maximum depth. We want to make sure that's checked off. And for the bitrate settings, I usually go to VBR 2-pass, and I change the target bitrate to about 15, and then the maximum to 25. And then you want to make sure this is checked, use maximum render quality. And then that is it. The other windows you don't have to change. The next thing you're going to want to do is save this as a preset. So I would save it as 1080p and then 24 frames. And then if you're working in 30 frames, you would change it to 1080 30f, or you can make a second one if you work in both sometimes. So I'm going to hit OK. Now that preset's saved and we can use that at any time. But at first I want to show you, let's say you were editing your footage and you left a little bit at the end there that you weren't sure if you're going to use. You left black space between it, but you know you want to export the first half. What you can do is you bring your cursor to the very beginning of your timeline, you hit I for in, you hit down on your keyboard, I'll hit it twice to go to the very end of the sequence, and you hit O for out point. And that down key jumps to the end of the clip you're selected on, jumps to the very end of the clip. You mark your in and out points, and now we can render just that little piece that we want. So we'll go to File, Export, Media. So we're going to go to H.264, and we'll grab that preset that we made earlier, that first one there. And now, so if you look back at our final sequence, there's no this black space isn't exporting. And that clip at the end isn't exporting as well. It finishes exporting at the very end of our footage. That's exactly what we wanted. And then you can hit export. If you want to make sure you get everything in the timeline, you'll just change that sequence in and out to entire session. And then it'll export everything if I had something there. But we'll do sequence in and out for now. We're going to export it. And I already set it to go to the right spot, so I don't have to change that output name. And there you go. Those are your export settings. So that was everything from backing up your footage, file structure, importing your footage, creating a sequence, and exporting. I hope it was helpful for you guys. If you have anything specific you'd like me to do a tutorial on, you can leave a comment or email me at worthk@suny-suffolk.edu. Thanks for watching, guys.